Welcome everybody. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you HTEC Principal Product Designer Marija Rakić. Today, Marija will be sharing her expertise on a topic of sustainability in web design. During the presentation, please feel free to ask any questions you may have. Marija will be more than happy to address them during the QA session at the end of her presentation. So welcome, Marija. Take the stage and inspire us with your insights and knowledge. Let's save the planet one website at a time. Go ahead.
Thank you, Marco. Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming. Let's start. And let's start with our planet. Our planet has a lot of resources that we depend on, and many of these resources are self-regenerative in nature. You can cut the tree and you can grow a tree. You can catch fish and there will be more fish. This is called replacement rate. You can think of it as a bathtub, and you are draining the bathtub and filling the bathtub at the same rate. And this allows system to stay stable. The water stays at the same level. And this is what we call equilibrium. It's not that you are not using the resources, you are using them at the rate to enable the system to stay stable. Right now, in the last 2 decades or so, we are consuming more resources at a faster rate than the replacement rate. So what this leads to is excessive consumption. And with this, we see that ocean life is in danger, forests disappearing. Excessive consumption is responsible for air pollution, plastic pollution, decline of ecosystem health, and of course, climate change. And sustainability is about how all of this is connected. Understanding that when you make a decision to buy a new mobile phone, you're impacting someone's life, probably at the other side of the world, who is mining the materials that are used in production of that phone. So sustainability is about system thinking. Sustainability framework is based on maintaining the balance of 3 elements: environment, economy, and equity. We call them the 3 E's. And it's not just understanding how we manage these, but again, how they are connected. If you only look at the environment and not think about economics and understanding how people earn for their living, you may not end up with a thriving society. And if you are not looking, for example, in equity, you will have a few people having most of the resources while the rest of them are suffering. In order to promote and apply the sustainable framework I mentioned before, in 2015, United Nations drew up a set of 17 global goals to combat poverty, inequality, environmental destruction, and more, and all by the year 2030. Currently, these goals are adopted by 193 countries. And as you can see, it's not all about the environment. Sustainability consists of fulfilling the needs of current generations without compromising the needs of future generations. Again, while assuring a balance between economic growth, environmental care, and social well-being. Put simply, sustainability is about our kids, our grandkids, and how future generations can also have a good life. Now you may ask, what is sustainability in digital products? When I said I'm going to give this talk, one person asked me, what kind of sustainability in digital? Didn't we say we want everything to be digital? And yes, that was true in 2007 when we talked about sustainability in digital products. We were talking about promoting, preservation, and maintenance of digital data. But since 2020, sustainability in digital products is more about how organizations uses technology to advance those sustainable development goals that I mentioned earlier. So digital sustainability is the process of applying social, economic, environmental stewardship principles in digital products, services, and data delivered via internet. And this definition is, in one aspect, a call for everybody who is involved in creation of digital products to create more resource-efficient solutions. Because digital products and services and the system that enable them require electricity 100% of the time. And taking into account that in the world there are 4.9 billion of active internet users, what this means is that every single search query, every streamed video, and every type of cloud computing executed billions and billions of times is responsible for ever increasing global demand of energy and thus increasing CO2 emission. What this means in numbers, for example, ecological impact of a single tweet is 0.026 grams of CO2. And that's not bad when you look at it. But if you take into account how many tweets are published a day and how many tweets are published a year, you come to the total annual footprint of Twitter, 8,200 tons of CO2. And that translates to 4,685 flights from Paris to New York. It's equal, the emission is equal to that number of flights. So it's not that trivial. Carbon footprint of an email is 0.23 grams. That is in case of a spam or a short email. If you write a long email and you attach PDF or an image to it, it can go to 50 grams of CO2. And currently, the carbon footprint of global email usage is estimated to be equal to 7 million extra cars on the road. And if that is not enough, searching Google produces around the 483,000 of CO2. Streaming music for 1 hour will produce 55 grams of emission, and streaming an album for more than 5 hours is interestingly worse than actually buying a CD. Streaming online content accounts for around 60% of internet traffic, and it generates 300 million tons of CO2 a year. And every hour of video conferencing creates 1 kilogram of CO2. So turning off video and using audio only can reduce carbon impact by 96%. So yes, we are polluting now as we speak, but I'm hoping that this talk will inspire many to do more regarding sustainability so that we balance this, the damage we're doing here today. And what I've added here is the carbon footprint of ChatGPTs. It's very popular now. There is a huge buzz on the internet about it. Daily carbon footprint is around 23 kilograms. So that's not really flattering. And AI is currently in the industry known as the paper of the digital products, but also AI and machine learning can help us with enabling smarter decision-making in decarbonization. They can work out how to allocate renewable energy. So these numbers are we're still calculating whether or not we should use it to this extent. Everything I said here, take it with a grain of salt, since if you are browsing internet from France, for example, that I think they have 90% of green energy currently, your emission will be lower. And there is also a lot of ways to calculate the carbon footprint of internet traffic. So, and there is still some debate what is the best way, but they are pretty close. And then we may ask, so what to do? How do we resolve this? The answer is think bigger, build better. And how do we do that? So we may start by asking, who do we choose to work with if we can? And is our client's goal aligned with our vision of the future? So it's not always about working on a coolest project. Sometimes we can consider what kind of impact, positive impact on society or environment the project we choose to work on have. I was lucky enough here at HTEC to work on a product in maritime industry, and this made me feel really good because this is an app that promotes SDGs, the 17 goals that I mentioned before, that through monitoring and route planning helps vessels to stay compliant, spend less fuel, be more green, and also has an application layer that includes reporting, which is now mandatory for our vessel about CO2 emission, that disables users to tamper with the numbers in those reports. You can also ask yourself, why are we doing this? And who is harmed and who is helped? And here I want to talk about food delivery apps, and we all use them, right? It's a fantastic service where you order your meal and the meal is delivered to your home in a reasonable amount of time. Apps are easy to use and you get like an excellent user experience. But let's think about it more. Let's think about how these companies hire delivery riders and they are not really paid well, or maybe not even employed in that company, but in a way self-employed. And of course, some of them use bicycles, but at least in our country, some of them use cars and motorcycles, directly contributing to the CO2 emission. Then we can argue that this service generates waste. So your food comes in paper and sometimes plastic bags and containers with flyers from restaurants. So there's more trash. And we can even go a step further and then analyze what kind of choices we present to the user. Are we promoting healthy choices or junk food? So now this food delivery user experience is not that good when you think about it in that way. Involve humans and non-humans who will be impacted in a project in your design process. If you ever go to any other sustainability talk, the big advocates of sustainability will use the sentence, instead of what I've shown here, stop designing for the user. So it's kind of heavy, and I would rather you still consider the end user, but also consider other non-human people who are affected by your project. You can start doing this by including non-human persona. We all create personas in our project, and you can include the planet as a persona in your next project, or trees, or a local park if it's affected, or a river. And it will give you just a bit different perspective about who is involved in your project and who is impacted by it. Another tool for you to consider is octant mapping canvas. It's available online to download for free. This canvas helps in mapping the human and non-human stakeholders of a product or a service and make you start empathizing with them through actionable items, and it helps you in your decision-making process. And this is a very complex life-centered design guide. It expands human-centered design to include into consideration the planet and all life form. And it is also aligned with those global goals that we talked about earlier. You can also check that online. A part of this framework is available for download if you want to get the whole kit. I'll leave my email at the end, so just let me know. Evaluate potential harm of your product, and that harm can be harm done to the society. Like in the previous example, we were considering, are we creating good jobs and good opportunities? So that is a social aspect. Think about physical harm and emotional harm. Like, does your product create addiction, anxiety? Can people get into accidents due to distraction? And of course, take into consideration, are any groups excluded by your product? And I can't stress this enough when I said, are any groups excluded? Here, I think it's much wider, but this is a good spot to tell you that accessibility, if you are advocate of the accessibility is the part of sustainability, since it's promoting equality for everybody. So we talked about social impact, and how a good example for me of how app can emotionally impact your end user is, you probably all remember, who is from the Balkans, the case of a delivery person contacting customer directly to the phone in the attempt to flirt. Of course, delivery person was fired, and customer actually received another text directly to their phone number. And I don't want to get into the moral of the story, but to talk about how digital solution could help prevent this. It's caused probably a fear. The person was probably anxious and scared when this was happening. And this is a clear case of how protecting privacy of your customers was not in the mind of the app creators, and how by simply enabling delivery person to make a call to the customer through the app without seeing their private number could prevent this. Move away from attention economy. We now live in attention-based economy. Social networks are like a model for attention economy, and you have all experienced this, suddenly realizing that you've been scrolling your phone for an hour or maybe more. And this has a drastic effect on your perception of society, of your perception of your own life. So it has a huge negative impact on humanity. And people who are from product and design probably know about this book. It's really good book if you want to practice attention economy, but please don't. It creates user addiction. So people are spending more time on their apps, and therefore they are using more electricity and directly contributing to the greenhouse emission. Simplify the user journey, reduce page loads, and of course, SEO. Every page on your website uses data, and the more time we spend on the internet, the more electricity we are using. If people have to go 4 levels deep to find the information they are looking for, that is a lot of electricity wasted. If they can go straight to the info they need, that's a good experience and it's good for the environment. So simplify them as much as you can. Mind your analytics. Look at it every day. Look for dead ends, and do SEO optimization, but because that will help people find what they are looking for faster, and again, reduce the time we spend on the internet. Efficient images. Use less images if you can, if it works for you. Use vector images if your art direction allows it. Use CSS wherever possible. When you are using images, design smallest version of your photo and use efficient image formats. Currently, WebP is my latest favorite format. First two are self-explanatory, first two bullet points, but if you don't know what you can accomplish with CSS, educate yourself. This is a website of Anna Pav. She is a front-end engineer, and all the beautiful illustrations on the right are pure CSS. So go Google CSS art, see how you can clip your images into interesting shapes with CSS, and do like color overlays. It will do, you will consume less energy, but still you can do great art. And if you take that challenge, take that as a challenge, you'll probably produce better solutions. Now, example of how you optimize an image. This is an image of my team. I see a lot of hearts. I assume that's them. It's around 1 megabytes, 1240 by 930. And you might think, okay, that's not a lot, really, like 1 megabyte. But again, when you think about this stuff, think about how this image is probably not the only image on your web page. There is more. And then think about how this image is loading and consuming energy for every visitor of your web page. So it's not loaded just once, well, probably thousands and thousands of times during one day. So what can we do to optimize images? Here are some simple tricks. If it works, again, if your art direction allows it, use black and white images. You will save 23% of the file of the space. And the other trick is to blur the edges of the full-blown color image. That will reduce the file size for not 28%. Again, the best thing is that you can do is to reduce the file size. So it's now 640 by 480. And then it's decent size, 252. But if I convert this to WebP, I get 154. So play with it, see what works for you. Again, it will save energy. Avoid video content. Video files are massive. They consume huge amounts of data. And I'm not saying it's not okay. It's okay if the video is the best way to communicate what you want to your users. If you decide to use video, don't use autoplay. I put avoid first, but then put it in a bracket. Just don't use it. It's not accessible. It starts consuming data as soon as person lands on your page, even if they don't want to watch that video. So just don't do it. I advise against it. Consider the context of the video and if it really works for you. Video is a format that doesn't give you much control over timeline. And if you are looking for information and you have to watch 5-minute video to get to that, it's not really good experience, and that information may not be in the video. So again, think about the context. Of course, If you are using video, see how short you can make it to communicate your vision, and use MPEG-4 format for now until something better is on the market. Mind the font. First advice is use system fonts, and the second advice is optimize custom fonts as much as you can. And I know this first advice is something designers in particular are going to be appalled with, because, you know, system fonts are not very exciting, and I agree, but at least work them in your body text, and then use exciting fonts for your titles and headings. They are free, and they don't consume any energy because they're already on all the devices. And how you can optimize custom fonts. Let's talk about Inter, for example. It is a TTF file. It comes in TTF format by default. It supports 2,548 characters, 39 languages, and it comes in 9 weights. And it's approximately 300 kilobytes per weight. So it's a very heavy file. When you think about it, again, think about how it's loaded with each visitor of your web page. What you can do is reduce font weight and variance. If you can use one, that would be perfect, but like 1 to 2, not use all 9s. That will work wonders for you. Subset fonts, that means using what you need only, and use the most efficient font format, and that's WOOF2. And what this means is, and I'm going to show you the table now. The first row is the original font, and the second is a subset of that font. We used 1 weight. We are using 90 characters, actually the one that are used on a web page. The web usually supports 2 languages, so we put 2, and the original file size is now 4% of the 290 kilobytes, so 12 kilobytes. And if you convert it to WOOF2, you will get more, even more, the file will be more compressed. So that leads us to saving around 90% of the file size without any difference for the end user. Colors. Use low energy colors. Disclaimer is this only works on OLED screens because they light up each individual pixel. And a lot of new phones, a lot of laptops and TVs now use OLED screens. So since they light up each pixel individually, the white color is a high energy color. Black uses, it's no energy is consumed because the screen is turned off. Dark colors are low energy, and it is interesting to know that blue is a high energy color, and it consumes around 25% more energy than red and green. So if it works, use dark theme, or at least offer it as an option. It consumes less energy. It's also good for accessibility because it creates less strain on the eyes, but mind the contrast if you decide to go that to the dark side. Storage and longevity. Run your website on green hosts. It's really now not uncommon, and there are a lot of them. You can go Google, create more CO2 Googling for the green options. Store only what you need. Regularly delete outdated content and data, and make your product work on all devices, since the main reason people are changing their devices, it's not because something wrong with the hardware, it's because they cannot use their favorite apps anymore. Development strategy regarding sustainability will consist of writing reusable code where possible, to use open source tools and modular frameworks, do not track user behavior unless it's necessary, prioritize privacy and security, and of course, follow web standards. Sustainable product is transparent and adaptable. This is something not widely practiced, but what it means is embed information about the impact of a digital service. For example, if you're buying something online, transparency would mean a good practice would be for default option to be for your parcel to be delivered in a nearby hub, and to basically see how much good you are doing, like. And the first option would say, like, if you choose this, this much carbon will be emitted to your neighborhood. Provide options for different energy consumption models. We'll talk about that through examples. Think about what would low impact version of this product look, and what crisis context could occur when this project is essential. And this is a website of Branch magazine, and what is interesting is that design is changing depending on how clean the energy this website is using is. So they change the design so that they stay on the carbon budget. So it's really interesting approach. It's also a good resource for you to read about how to create more sustainable internet. This is a website of a city of Herring in Denmark. And I actually learned about this website on another sustainability talk. And they give option to the user to switch to climate-friendly display. So you just click a button and you are presented with this alternative solution that spends less energy. And it is also like good for that crisis scenario, like if your battery is low and you absolutely have to see some information. All the video and images are not displayed, so that less energy is consumed. This, in my mind, was a perfect example of also good usability, since if you think about it, it's a website about a town, mainly with service information. So images here are not that relevant. It's not a news portal or an e-commerce site. But when I said e-commerce, now you're going to be surprised. This is Organic Basics, and they have an e-commerce website. But what they also have is a low-impact website. The brand went for vector graphics rather than photos of models wearing their clothes. And with just eliminating images, this website consumes less energy. And they even go one step further, is that they will put their low-impact website offline if carbon intensity is not to their standards. Interestingly enough, this always happens in our country. So to summarize, what are the benefits of sustainability in digital products? And I just chosen a few here. There is more that are more helping your clients be compliant to the current laws that are based on the SDGs mentioned earlier, and so on and so forth. But shorten user journeys, better content, better web performance, better SEO, better accessibility, less energy and emission, and better user privacy. And when you think about everything I mentioned here, it's nothing new. These are all stuff that that are used to build better performing digital products. So when you advocate for the sustainability, you advocate for better products altogether. And I will end up this talk with a quote from Robert Swan. The greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. So if you practice sustainability, you will feel that you are contributing. It will help you feel better as a human being. And it's good for everybody. And if you have any questions that you are not comfortable to ask now, or what I would like to encourage you to do is drop me an email if you want to hear more about this subject, deep dive, because we only scratched the surface today, or if you want to access any of the resources I mentioned today. Thank you. Time for questions.
Yes, thank you, Marija. So yeah, we have one question. Any ideas about perceiving value of such design from a user perspective? So does it distract users who are not informed and or don't care about sustainability?
No, actually, no. Like the benefit list already shown, there is always an option. You give them an option low. You can build a separate website, like the example at the end, where user is taken to the low emission, or you enjoy in full-blown experience. I don't see any harm done if you are not interested.
Great. Yes, another question, which is really useful, even besides sustainability, is how do we measure difference between before and after we apply those changes on a specific project?
If you want to actually measure the CO2 emission of your website, I actually wanted to incorporate that into this talk, but there was the time limit. There is a time limit, so I didn't. There are currently, I think, 5 or 6 services online that will measure the carbon footprint of your digital product. Some of them will take into consideration even your hosting. So it will calculate what kind of fuel, is it green, is it fossil fuel that your server is running on. So some of them are really sophisticated, some of them are robust. There are even services where you can calculate your own carbon footprint, like typing in all your habits. Like I use phone, I have 8 devices in my house. These are my habits. And then they give you like the number you need to plant 5,000 trees to compensate. But you can actually use those services. If I don't know who asked that, but drop me an email. I can send you the list about the.
Yes, I see one link, but okay, it's not in the form of a.
I'm not sure what is the link.
Yes, we can. It's not in the form of a question, but we will check it later. I guess it's something really close.
It's not really transparent which of them are taking your host and other aspects of your product into consideration. I think the first one in the search is the one that is not taking into account your whether you are running on green host or not. And I can test this now, right? If there is no more questions.
No more questions. I would like to ask you a question if it's not a problem. So how do you win stakeholders about this idea? How are they reacting to this?
Good question. Good question. How do you win stakeholders? One way to win them, it's good for them. A lot of businesses today have to comply to SDGs. So if you are a business anywhere, at least in Europe, if you have a consumption to a certain number and over it, if you are a business, you have to send a report about your CO2 emission to the regulatory bodies. So whoever uses electricity and it's a business already has to comply to some extent. And that is this year. By the year 2030, that will be even harsher. So the control will become even tighter, let's say. So you are basically help them to stay compliant, avoid massive fines that they will have to face. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect is, of course, positive image of the company. You know, if you are green, it's a popular choice these days. And of course, sustainability as a concept allows companies to grow. It gives you ecosystem that is sustainable. It's a full circle. So the cost of the maintenance of the digital product will reduce if you practice sustainability over time. So it's all beneficial for the stakeholder. And we can go even further if you want to. But
we'll take that on a private session. So we have another question. Are there any books or notable research you would like to recommend for this topic?
There are many books. But what I really wanted to recommend, but it's not out yet, and we are like, the sustainability community is very hyped about this. There is a group of, I think, over 50 people who came together to create a sustainable framework. And I've seen a preview of that. It's fantastic. And I will give you a link. They are planning to publish, it's sustainablemanifesto.com. And this is done by Product Community. You can visit them. It's not yet out, but this is going to be like your best friend. There is also 2 more sustainable manifestos, but if you want to be active, let's say, in a community, there are 2 Slack communities. One you can join through this sustainablemanifesto.com, and another one that, again, I don't know by heart, but marija.rakić@htec.com, or find me on LinkedIn, drop me a message. I'll be happy to share all the links with you.
Great. This was really astonishing, Marija. It's a wake-up call, a serious wake-up call.
I hope
Thank you. No further questions, so.
And I encourage you all, do contact me even if you just want to chat about it, or you're not certain how to do it and how to approach it, like what to read as well. I'll let you know. I'll try to pick like the best choices that are out there.
Thank you, Marija, once again. Thank you all.
Thank you all for coming.
Bye.